Hello and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joanne Baron, and I'll be your host for this breakout session. Thank you to our audience for joining us today at the Asian Business Conference, wherever you are, at home or in the office, so long as we are always staying safe. The earlier plenary was indeed very enlightening, and I was fascinated with the panel discussion, and the key takeaways are very relevant to the challenge that is facing us. In this session, we will be tackling the topic, Deep Dive into the Future of Technopreneurship. As the term connotes, it's a combination of two words, technology and entrepreneurship. Technopreneurship has become more relevant as digitization has accelerated by leaps and bounds. Strategic directions or decision-making processes have become more demanding and complex. For businesses to survive, it has become necessary for organizations to produce strategic thinkers who have the skills to succeed in a rapidly changing global environment. So we ask the questions, what channels are available to accelerate and expand businesses and its people and contribute to the growth and development of entrepreneurs in a knowledge-based economy? What are the advancements in structures and strategies that technology-based enterprises can explore and develop? How can companies expand to compete in this borderless world, at the same time create and add value to their business to achieve sustainability? Let us find out the possible answers to these questions from our esteemed breakout speaker. He is a senior lecturer at the University of the Philippines Diliman Technology Management Center. Currently, he is the Senior Executive Vice President, Chief Technology and Operations Officer, and Chief Transformation Officer of UnionBank of the Philippines, and the Chairman of UBX Philippines, the fintech spin-off of the bank. A round of applause, please, for Mr. Henry Aguda. Good afternoon, Henry. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Joanne, and to the organizer of the Asian Business Conference. Thank you very much for inviting me and allowing me to share what we've been doing in UnionBank.
Thank you. There are big words in your presentation today, and I am looking forward because personally, my knowledge of technology is quite fundamental, and I am looking forward to your presentation. Please take the floor, Henry. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. Okay, so banking services are essential to any enterprise or any entrepreneur. They're the means by which you disburse funds and you get paid. My presentation is basically the journey that UnionBank has had for the past few years. I'll relate to you the journey from where we started, where we're not yet digital, to where we are right now, one of the best digital banks in the Philippines, awarded by several recognized organizations. And the journey that we've had during the pandemic days of last year, and unfortunately extending up to now. So let me start with my presentation. So banking has several conventional wisdoms of the industry. The conventional wisdom of banking before was basically rooted on creating more brick-and-mortar facilities for servicing the public. As you've seen here, one of the key channels would be the ATM. So ATMs were an innovation from the over-the-counter transaction of the past. And the more ATMs you have as a bank, the more you're able to service customers and the more you grow your customer base. This is by no less an innovative solution to banking a few decades ago and continue to this day. And this is one of those where we've seen banks be successful with. Next also is banking has been largely over the counter. If you want to make a transaction, especially if it's a high value transaction, you travel to a branch and do transactions with the people that are in the branches. And we're all familiar with the tellers that are currently the banking frontliners that provide services to the public. And then the ATM. And of course, for any businessman, the check is a staple of any process. You take out a paper check, you issue it to your customer or to your supplier, and those checks get transacted over the counter. Checks also provide a legal protection for anyone accepting payments with check. We're all familiar with the bounty check law, and laws on securities. So 5 years back, UnionBank said, we want to increase our ability to serve the public. 5 years back, we said that 77% of our population are still unbanked. And we said that in order for us to have social inclusion and financial inclusion, we need to increase that number. And we took stock of how we can do that. And we said that by increasing our brick and mortar branches, it will take us at least 20 to 30 years before we can even make a dent. So we opted not to do the brick and mortar approach. Also, taking note that 5 years back, digital payments accounted for only 1% of the total payment transaction in the country. And that goes to show that cash is king. The actual paper cash and the actual paper checks are still the modes by which 99% of the transactions are fulfilled. Recognizing that this is the situation in the country 5 years back, our regulators actually embarked on an ambitious target. This is the regulatory journey that they started in 2015, where they launched the National Retail Payment System. In fact, if you remember 2 years ago, if somebody would tell you, hey, you know, pay your bills through InstaPay, transfer your funds through PesoNet, people would give you a quizzical look. But now, those terms have actually been elevated to the status of a verb. If you want to pay somebody, some people would say InstaPay mo. If you want to pay somebody in larger amounts, sasabihin nila, i-PesoNet mo. So those phenomenon became apparent, especially during the pandemic. But the journey towards getting PesoNet and InstaPay, the mainstream mode for payment nowadays, started way back 2015. When the BSP, our main regulator in the banking industry, created the NRPS, the National Retail Payment System. Subsequently, they created TPMI, which is the governing body that operates InstaPay, the regulations and the policies under InstaPay and PesoNet. I'm happy to also mention that our former chairman, Tito Ortiz, was the founding and still existing chairman of the PPMI, and you know, the rest is history, as they say. PesoNet was launched in 2017. PesoNet being operated by the Philippine Clearing House as the transformed channel to physical checks, because the Philippine Clearing House operates the check clearing in the country, and InstaPay as the transformed evolution of the ATM transactions, because InstaPay is operated by BankNet, and BankNet operates the ATMs in the country. Unfortunately, as much as technology has already progressed in the world and in the Philippines, I think at one point we have the highest adoption of Facebook users. We had the highest adoption of SMS messages, and from 10% penetration in mobile phones, we've already moved to more than 100% penetration, because most people would have a prepaid subscription, and a large number of our people have dual or triple phones. Unfortunately, the Philippines still lack financial inclusion, even with the progress in technology. So that was the driving force for UnionBank to digitize, to pursue financial inclusion in the fastest possible way. And we said we'll do that by the use of technology and by digitizing and creating a digital system that would be available to most of our customers. Our digital aspirations didn't happen overnight. They didn't materialize after just a year. They actually started way, way back. These are 2 annual reports showing that as far back as 1999, UnionBank have already aspired to become a digital bank. Long before chatbots and AIs and blockchains have become mainstream lingo in the technical space, UnionBank had already started playing around with the websites, mobile banking, PDAs, video conferencing. In fact, UnionBank used to be a Hall of Famer of the Webby Awards. For some of you who may remember the Webby Awards, those are awards that have been given to institutions because of their innovative use of online and web technologies. From our aspirations of the past, this is what UnionBank progressed to. 5 years back, we said our digital journey will start from recreating the traditional channels in the banking industry. So as I mentioned, banks before were heavy into brick-and-mortar channels such as the branches for over-the-counter transactions, ATMs for both branch and off-branch transactions. You've seen a lot of ATMs in malls and so many other establishments. And with those physical presence, you have more and more facilities to process paper-based checks. The answer to being able to address more customers and create a system that's more accessible to people were not to build more brick-and-mortar channels. We said we'll build them in a digital fashion. So we did a counterpart for the branch through our banking online app, UMobile, UnionBank Mobile. And from there, you can now fund transfer like you would do in an ATM. And from there, you can also deposit checks like what you do for physical checks. When we started our digital transformation, we decided to start first with our culture and our people. This is a picture of our chairman. The story goes, one day, our former chairman, Tito Ortiz, gathered 20 of our top executives in a C programming course. So this is them learning how to program in C for one day, and they program an Arduino box, and they race that Arduino car. Our former chairman has not taken up coding or programming, but with this exposure, he has continued on to be our advocate for new technologies such as AI, blockchain, the fourth industrial revolution. And he's continued on this advocacy, and culture starts from the top. And if Tito's leadership in the technology journey of UnionBank is to be accredited, the transformation of the whole culture of UnionBank. I'm going to show you some of the channels that we've created on the digital space. This is a UnionBank mobile app. This is the first bank to launch PesoNet and InstaPay way back in 2017. And this is quite easy now for SMEs and entrepreneurs to disburse funds in a mobile fashion from the safety of either their offices or their homes. This app also has the ability to onboard customers without them going to the branches. So during the pandemic, this became very handy because customers who needed to do digital banking didn't have to go to our branches anymore. They just need to download the app, fund it with their checking account, and then they can start transacting through the app. In fact, because of this, the digital onboarding process of our app, our customer base has been growing at a rate of about 2,000 to 3,000 a day, which is a far cry from the 2,000 per month that we used to add new customers to our customer base prior to the pandemic. But we didn't just limit ourselves to launching a fantastic online app. We also developed a platform that allows rural banks to start interconnecting and becoming more digital among themselves. This is the platform on blockchain that we've created called I2I. And on the right is our chairman actually unveiling our first blockchain network execution in New York 3 years back. This blockchain of rural banks allows the rural banks to connect to the NRPS. So a rural bank in the provinces can now do InstaPay and PesoNet without them connecting directly to BankNet or PCHC. This allows them faster onboarding. Some rural banks have started connecting directly to the NRPS after they've experienced the services through I2I. This also allowed banks to do cross-border remittances using our stablecoin. Imagine an OFW in Singapore sending money to his or her family in the provinces through I2I. Frictionless, free, and very convenient. Social media platforms have also emerged as one of those channels for which UnionBank services its customers. We've launched our chatbot, Rafa, that interacts through dynamic chat with our customers. And we basically moved away from the regular, you have to phone in your issues to the bank, to engaging them in Facebook, Viber, and other social media avenues. All of that, what I've mentioned earlier, have been in there since, I guess, as early as 2017 to 2019. And we've enjoyed some success in those digital channels. But when the pandemic hit almost a year ago, and the country had to go through hard lockdowns, that's when we realized the potency and the extreme need for a digital channel by our customers. And our customers actually onboarded very quickly to our digital channels. So in 2020, when the pandemic hit, our digital channels were the main avenue for customers to fulfill their transactions. Some statistics that you may want to bear in mind. PesoNet, through PesoNet, the country has actually disbursed 21.8 billion funds to 2.85 million recipients. The Small Business Wages Relief Fund was actually something that we cooperated with the government. So not only are digital transactions efficient and customer friendly, they became essential during the time of us administering relief funds and relief efforts throughout the country. This is UnionBank and one of our subsidiaries, UBX, partnering with the SWD. We actually partnered with them for the second tranche of the SAP funds, where we helped distribute amelioration to 13.5 million beneficiaries. We also partnered with the government to launch a retail bond offering called bonds.ph. Not a lot of people know that the back end of this system that the Bureau of Treasury launched was actually a system that was developed by UnionBank. And this allowed not only the advocacy of financial literacy, but also allowed people to invest in bonds that are very affordable, and allowed the government to raise funds for the pandemic. So during the pandemic, we also realized that SMEs and entrepreneurs would require a separate app that's customized and tuned to their needs. So this is something that we launched just recently during the pandemic. It's an SME platform that has everything that small and medium enterprise would need. Look at this as UnionBank Mobile for retail, and this is SME for app for businesses and entrepreneurs. So, in a nutshell, this is the total banking experience. Digital account opening is very easy. You go on any of the app stores available out there, you download our app. Once you've been able to download our app, you take a selfie of yourself. You take pictures of your KYC documents or government IDs. You take a picture of a check that you issue from another bank, and you start funding your UnionBank digital. From there, now start transferring funds via Net and InstaPay bills, to transfer funds to the provinces, and to disburse to your maybe employees. And the nice thing about what UnionBank did in 2020 was not only did it allow a digital rail to exist and to be on board easily, we also allowed for more cash out counters. So these are the fintechs that we've partnered with, like for Lalamove, Grab Taxi, and the rest. We are able to deliver your ATM cards to your doorstep within 2 days. And if you have relatives in the provinces who don't have means of digitally using the proceeds, they can go to any 11,000 cash out counters in the provinces that we've connected to. So you can disburse the proceeds of your funds to 11,000 counters that your beneficiaries can go to. We also allowed for deposits to be taken in 7-Eleven. So you don't really need to go to any of our bank branches with this type of digital infrastructure. Because of everything that we've done, actually, UnionBank was ranked as second most helpful bank in Asia Pacific. This is something that we're very proud of because it's a testimony to our customers saying that we've been able to help them. These are also some of the things that we've done, the Bank on Wheels. If you notice the bank branch that's on a truck platform, we've also brought them over to basketball courts or plazas to administer amelioration as well. Actually, if for anything else, for any bright light at the end of the tunnel, the pandemic has actually highlighted the importance of digital transactions in the economy. No less than our BSP governor is now pushing for more digitalization in the banking space, anywhere from open banking finance to doing digital currencies. Just to give you an idea, during the pandemic, the paper check volume has actually tapered off, and what has replaced this is an increasing volume of people using PesoNet transactions. If you could see the hockey stick there, we feel that that's going to continue, and people are going to move away from physical checks and move into PesoNet transactions more. That's the same story for ATM transactions being replaced by InstaPay. So more and more people will be transferring funds in a digital manner using their apps. And the main avenue to do that would be InstaPay. ATMs will still be there, but for the past 2 decades, this is the first time that ATM transaction has actually dipped. Okay, so we feel that digital transactions will be beyond the 20% target that the BSP set for itself for digital payments. In UnionBank, we've actually seen a 340% increase in online transactions, while our regular non-digital transactions are going down. To mention, BSP might overshot its 20% target for digital payment and might even hit 30% by end of 2020 and beyond. We feel financial inclusion will move from 23% to 33% by end of 2020 as well. Giving you the idea that digital transactions are really gaining ground in the Philippines. So for any SME or any entrepreneur out there, banking services become essential for you to be able to service your customers. And as the banks become more digital, so should your organization. That's my presentation, Joanne. I'm open now for questions.
Henry, it was quite interesting revisiting the progression of the banking industry and what the future holds for digital banking. I have learned new words that signify an industry that we all have to learn about. And I think our audience have also latched on some terms that you dropped along the way of your presentation. So if I may, I'd like to start with our first question from Pearl. Okay, so she wants to know, from your perspective, do companies miss out on opportunities by not embracing fintech in their business strategy? And what do you think these missed opportunities are?
Wow, that's a good question, Pearl. So UnionBank, early on, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, said that we will embrace the fintech community. In fact, we are still the only bank in the Philippines that has a separate fintech organization, and still the only bank in the Philippines that has established its own fintech company, UBX. So what are the benefits of interacting and engaging with the fintechs? One is the cultural change that happens when you engage the fintech. So with UnionBank, a lot of our cultural evolution came from best practices that we've seen in fintechs. Their drive to innovate, their ability to experiment, their need to be mission-driven and pursue meaningful goals. So don't get me wrong, profit is still essential to any endeavor, but in UnionBank, as our Chief Customer Experience Officer, Anna, would always say, banking is not just about money, it's about people and uplifting lives. And the fintechs do that on a regular basis. So you get to be immersed in that world, and in doing so, you get to learn from their practices also. Second is, we've heard this, the fintechs sometimes evolve and grow to become the giants that we know of, like PayPal started as a fintech, now one of the biggest financial institutions out there. We're able to grow together with the fintech. UnionBank is proud to say that it's, I guess, the bank of the fintechs right now. So for an SME or an entrepreneur, engaging fintechs will give you a lot of exposure to technology and new ways of approaching business models.
All right. Another question from this time from June. I think he wants to push further the era of digitization, and he wants to know your thoughts on the future of cryptocurrency. And well, at the outset, what is cryptocurrency for those unfamiliar with it, such as me?
Okay, so what is cryptocurrency? A lot of people associate cryptocurrency, and rightly so, to Bitcoin. So we know where Bitcoin is right now. The story about it used to be valued at the price of a pizza. Now I think the price is close to about $60,000 US per Bitcoin. And if you believe some of the projections, it might hit 100,000 by end of the year, etc. So cryptocurrency serves several markets. One of them are the speculators, those that are buying Bitcoin in the hopes that the prices appreciate. And as the prices appreciate, they sell the asset. So that's one use of cryptocurrency. The other and more, I think, substantial use of cryptocurrency is when you use it to make transactions more efficient. Because underlying any cryptocurrency is a technology called blockchain. And I mentioned earlier I2I. I2I allowed us to interconnect rural banks without charging them anything, because the technology that we deployed was blockchain, and blockchain was very, very easy to deploy and very cost efficient. So that's one use of cryptocurrencies, when you use the underlying technology to make better systems. In fact, with I2I, we created what we call a stable coin. We call it PHX. That coin is equivalent to 1 peso. So I mentioned earlier cross-border remittance. That's how an OFW in Singapore can send money over to rural banks in the provinces by sending over PHX that we convert in UnionBank. And that's why we can also give the most, the least amount of cost to the beneficiary It's a stable coin because it allows for assured transfer and people won't speculate with the value. So another emerging concept are central bank-backed digital currencies. These are cryptocurrencies. If you use the term cryptocurrency, these are cryptocurrencies that are fiat by nature because the banks issue them. So China's doing that. Several other countries in Europe are doing that. And our very own central bank has already stated a policy that they will explore and eventually launch digital currencies. If you ask me why would they do that, it's the natural evolution of any exchange of value. Right now, we exchange value through cash as in paper-based cash or coins. In the future, we'll be able to change value digitally. So cryptocurrencies are here, and they're you know, I can use up a whole day trying to discuss all of the uses of it. But I guess those three things that I mentioned would be more than enough for anybody to be convinced that this is a thing that will stay with us in the country.
All right. Thank you, Henry. Now, our third question seems to latch on what you mentioned on blockchain technology. So, Jigs wants to know, what role will blockchain technology play in the use and expansion of fintech?
Wow, that's an interesting question, Jigs. It leads me to believe that you might want to put up your own blockchain startup one of these days. So blockchain, as a lot of people coined it, is the Internet 2.0 or the new version of the Internet, where a lot of the startups started by creating or recreating the brick and mortar schemes into online and web presence and then into the app. A lot of people are now saying maybe one way or one technology that startup could exploit is the use of blockchain. If they can tokenize, which is a term that a lot of people are using in replace of coins, if you can tokenize your startup by using blockchain, then it's going to be easy for customers now to consume your services. As an example, if you're a startup in logistics and you're able to create your logistics platform in the blockchain, you can tokenize the transfer of invoices and letters of credit and the transactions that go through the chain. And tokens get passed on from one point in the value chain to another, and it gives you an immutable record and a ledger of everything that happens. You're able to do that, then you have a special startup that's uniquely using blockchain.
All right. You mentioned earlier about central bank-backed cryptocurrency. Now, do you think that our own Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas should consider having its own digital currency?
Okay. Well, the question is, have already been answered by Central Bank. They said yes. That's why I think late last year, they already sent out a document that says they're exploring it. And the nice thing about the central bank that we have is they've actually been forward-looking in a lot of the policies and the regulations that they've been pushing. They were the one who pushed digital payments to where it is right now with NRPS and President. And they're aggressively now pushing for open finance, where eventually customers can tell banks to open bank accounts with other banks for them. And for digital currencies, yes, they see the efficiency that digital currencies will provide in the recording of values in the economy, and brings Philippine banking to the next century of banking. So the answer is yes. The BSP has already stated they will push for it, and personally, I think that's a great move for our regulators.
All right. So, Henry, that is all the time that we have for questions. And thank you once again. That was a very fruitful exchange of ideas, and I am sure our audience agrees with me as well. In the past 30 minutes or so, we have merely skimmed the surface of fintech and technopreneurship. As you mentioned, we could take a whole day just discussing cryptocurrency. and we hope to have you again for more in-depth discussion.